Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we've got another news rumor review here to discuss. In today's video, we're looking at signing for our past couple of days, some injury updates, a waiver update, some other small pieces of news, and we've got some trade rumors involving the Flames, Rangers, Panthers, and a couple of other teams. I'll touch on all this coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now before we begin this video, do not forget to like this video and subscribe down below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers and we're trying to hit 675 by the March 6th trade deadline. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. Also don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming out in the very near future. If you haven't already, check out my Buy Me a Coffee page. If you can, make a donation. It really does help the channel. I'll leave a link to it down in the description below if you can check it out. That'd be great. And also don't forget to stay tuned for my March 6th trade deadline live stream. Once again, we do this every year at around 11:30ish. We'll probably start the stream and then it will go until around 1:32. So if you can, March 6th at 11:30 Mountain Time, check in onto the channel as I will be trying to do a live stream talking about all the moves that happen on trade deadline day. But in today's video, we have another news and rumor video here to discuss. So we're going to start off with a signing that happened yesterday, and that was in the Carolina Hurricanes organization. Goaltender Brandon Bussi, who's 27 years old, was a waiver claim from the Carolina Hurricanes off of waivers from the Florida Panthers to begin the season. He was in the Boston Bruins organization for quite a bit of time, never got a chance at the NHL level, left as a UFA, signed with Florida, won on waivers, was claimed by Carolina. Now Bussi had shown potential at the AHL level, but Boston never really brought him up to the NHL level to see how he does at the NHL level. But he was acquired by Carolina off of waivers, and due to injuries to Trocheck, he was basically the backup to Anderson, and he has taken off running. He has an insane record, something like I think like 22-1 or something like that. Like, he has been absolutely phenomenal, and is basically a team starter at this point. Because of that, the Canes have seen it imperative to sign to an extension, and they have. He gets a 3-year extension with AAV of $1.9 million. This is a steal. The Carolina Hurricanes getting Bussi for under $2 million with the way he has played this year is absolute robbery from the Carolina Hurricanes management. So far this year, he has a 908 save percentage and a 2.16 GA in 27 games. Bussi has been phenomenal. So to get him at under that cap hit of $2 million for 3 more seasons is crazy. So they got Frederik Andersen, who's a pending UFA. Trocheck, who has been injured a whole bunch this year, is going to be a guy who's still signed for a couple of seasons, but they do have a solid 1A starter level goaltender in Brandon Bussi for the next little bit. So very interesting note there. But after what has been a blistering start to his season with the Carolina Hurricanes, Bussi has signed a 3-year extension just under $2 million to remain the Carolina Hurricanes starter. So very interesting note there. But some very interesting signing updates from the past couple of days. Next, going over to a couple of injury updates. Just 3 small injury updates here to talk about. So first, Kevin Fiala has officially underwent surgery to repair fractures to his lower leg, which we talked about a little while ago. He sustained in a game between Switzerland and Canada, which wasn't overly good, and it has now been announced that he will miss the rest of the regular season. It says that he will be reevaluated at the end of the regular season, so there is a potentiality if the Kings sneak into a playoff spot, Fiala could be back at some point during the playoffs. But the regular season's done, Fiala's not going to be back for the regular season, and there's still a very likely chance Fiala could miss the entirety of the playoffs as well. So bad news there, but Fiala's officially had his surgery, and we wish him all the best, and hopefully he can make a speedy recovery, but that is a bad blow there for the Los Angeles Kings. Oliver Kapanen and Anton Lundell, who were both playing for Team Finland with the Finnish team, apparently both missed Saturday's game, which was the last group stage game for Team Finland, with the illness and are out day to day. So not great news there. Kapanen has been a healthy scratch, so to see him be out with an illness isn't too bad, but Lundell actually did play a couple of games for Finland, so it doesn't seem like it's too severe. They might be able to play in tomorrow's quarterfinal games for Team Finland, which will be great. So very interesting note there, but Kapanen and Lundell both missed Saturday's game due to an illness. Not over the great news there. And then the Sharks AHL affiliates, former first-round pick Quentin Musty returned to AHL action recently. I think it was on like Friday or Saturday after missing a month with a lower body injury. So that's really good news there for Musty to get back into game action. While Cameron Lund has apparently recently suffered an upper body injury and he's going to be in this multiple weeks, which is not really good there for a young Sharks prospect who's actually been a call-up option on occasion. So very interesting note there. But Musty's returned to the AHL well. Lund's been injured. Fiala's going to miss the rest of the regular season, and Kapanen and Lundell both miss Finland's most recent game. So very interesting note there, but some very interesting injury updates from our past couple of days. Next, going over to a waiver update. We saw one waiver update. I don't know the exact outcome, but I'm pretty sure I can guess what it is. And that is with the San Jose Sharks and Jeff Skinner. After signing into a 1-year, $3 million deal in the offseason, Skinner has been not overly great with the San Jose Sharks. He's had a couple of points. He's had some really good moments, but he's also been healthy scratched a couple of times. So him and the Sharks have officially mutually agreed to part ways, and they're terminating his contract. So Skinner is on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination. So I'm recording this before the waivers wound up being announced. Given the fact he's on unconditional waivers, and some teams could sign him for like $1 million, $1.5 million and not have to keep his $3 million cap hit, I think there's a very likely chance he winds up clearing waivers. And I would not be one bit surprised if Skinner does wind up clearing and then sign somewhere else. But it seems like Skinner is heading towards UFA status, and after only spending a couple of months in San Jose, with some of the other younger guys the San Jose Sharks have really growing with that team, there's really no need for Skinner at this point. So it seems like they should mutually agree to terminate his contract, and we'll see where Skinner goes next. So very interesting note there, but keep your eye on Jeff Skinner going forward, as there is a very likely chance he could sign with another team before the trade deadline. So we'll have to watch out on that, but Skinner is on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination. So very interesting note there. A couple of other small pieces of news. Josh Davies, who we talked about last week, was placed in unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination with the Florida Panthers. We said there was a very likely chance he would clear. He did, so he became a UFA. He has officially signed an AHL contract with the Milwaukee Admirals, the Nashville Predators AHL affiliate. So Davies doesn't take too long to sign a new deal. He's going to be playing in the AHL with Milwaukee for the time being. I'm not sure if he'll ever get an NHL contract with the Preds, but he is going over to Milwaukee to play with the AHL team. So it only took him a week, but Davies has already found his new home after being placed in unconditional waivers by the Florida Panthers. And lastly, in one of the games over on the weekend between Canada and France, I think it was on Sunday, we saw a very interesting thing, and that was a fight between Tom Wilson and a French player, Pierre Crenon. Now, I'm not exactly sure of the exact rules, but I know that there's some rules against fighting in the IIHF. So there was some talk about potentially Tom Wilson being suspended for something or being fined, but it seems like that's not going to happen. Tom Wilson escaped without any sort of repercussions from that fight. So it seems like Tom Wilson will be good to go for tomorrow's game for Team Canada. However, when it comes to the French team, not the IIHF, but the French team actually suspended Pierre Crenon after the fight. It seems like there were some other things that happened afterwards that really led them to suspend him, but it wasn't actually the IIHF that suspended him. It was the actual French team. So very interesting note there, but do not expect any sort of repercussions to come to Crenon or Wilson from the IIHF after they both had a fight on Sunday between Canada and France. So very interesting note there. Those are all the news updates from the past couple of days. And lastly, going over to a couple of trade rumors. So we got 4 trade rumors here to talk about, some very interesting ones. We're going to start off with the Florida Panthers. According to Jason Gregor, he said that with the Florida Panthers not looking overly good right now, and with the Florida Panthers potentially being a team who's on the outside looking in come the trade deadline, he says that they could maybe consider selling 1 or 2 pending UFAs, and one name that he says that comes to mind that could wind up being dealt that could have some decent value is AJ Greer. Now Greer is a 4th liner. He's on a cheap contract. I think he's making like just under $900,000, so he's not an overly expensive guy. He's a hard-hitting, hard to play against forward, sort of a guy you put on the 4th line in the playoffs to create some rough stuff. So yeah, I could definitely see them trade Greer. He does wonder if they just not want to keep Greer and Gadjevich because they both play similar style games. So I could see that. Like, there's a couple of pending UFAs on the Panthers that if it was to get to that, and the Panthers are quite a bit out of a playoff spot come the trade deadline, they could try and sell high on a couple of guys. And Greer is a name that comes to mind. Like, he's a solid, hard-hitting 4th line forward. He's a guy who I think a lot of teams could pay a pretty good package for. Like, I don't think he's going to get very much, but I could see the Panthers get like a 3rd round pick if they were to trade AJ Greer. So I'm not going to say it's a guarantee by any means that Greer does get moved, because he is a pretty good piece of that Florida Panthers team, and if they do go on a run, maybe they don't try and trade him. But given the fact he's a pending UFA and the Panthers are where they are right now in the standings, yeah, I could see the Florida Panthers try and deal AJ Greer. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But definitely keep your eye on maybe a couple of the Panthers pending UFAs, as if they can't find their groove when we come back from the Olympic break, closing in on their trade deadline. I could see a couple of guys get moved by the Florida Panthers, so I'll have to wait and see on that. Next, going over to Chris Johnston, he says that the Minnesota Wild might be a front runner for New York Ranger center Vincent Trocheck. Now, that's not a surprise. According to Johnston, he mentions that Bill Guerin, who was the GM of Team USA, has a lot of ties to Vincent Trocheck because Trocheck is on Team USA in the Olympics right now. The Wild don't have a really great center group, so it seems like there's a lot of speculation. And I've seen that from other insiders too. Like, it seems like the Wild are most likely landing spot right now for Vincent Trocheck. We've heard about Carolina, we've heard about Detroit, to some extent Los Angeles. There's been a couple of other teams, but Minnesota's been the main team we've been hearing when it comes to Vincent Trocheck. And take a pretty good price. Like, I've seen a lot of people say maybe a guy like Charlie Strommel could be dealt to the New York Rangers, maybe even a guy like Daniel Yurov. Probably would have to be like a future first-round pick or maybe a couple of second-round picks. Like, it'd be a very difficult deal to do after the Minnesota Wild trade a lot of assets in the Quinn Hughes deal, but it's a very interesting concept, and I definitely think it's one that we could wind up seeing. Because, like I said, if you put Trocheck in as either like your first-line center playing with Kaprizov or your second-line center playing with Matthew Boldy, and you have Eric Sneck be your other center, a 1-2 punch of Eric Sneck and Vincent Trocheck down the middle isn't half bad, and Trocheck is a really good face-off man. So once again, I don't think it's a guarantee by any means that Trocheck gets moved, but there's a lot of rumors circulating around a Vincent Trocheck deal, and given the fact that the Minnesota Wild do have some problems up the middle, I could definitely see that team try and acquire him. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but with all the ties between Billy Guerin and Vincent Trocheck with Team USA and things like that, do not be surprised if the Minnesota Wild are the team that lands Vincent Trocheck. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Next, going over to the Los Angeles Kings, David Pagnotta was talking about the Kings, and he mentions that the LA Kings, so long as the Jackets don't re-sign him, could make a push to try and acquire Charlie Coyle from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, with the Kings, they are on the outside looking in, like we just talked about. They lost Fiala for the rest of the regular season, so it's not looking overly good for them to make the playoffs, but they're only a couple of points out, and teams like Seattle, Anaheim, and Utah are not overly experienced and might slip a little bit in the second half of the season. So with all that in mind, the Kings could still push their way for a playoff spot. They just acquired Artemi Panarin, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, this team is looking for a center. They traded Philip Deneau earlier in the season, so they are looking for a center who can really round out that team as maybe like a third-line center behind Kopitar and Byfield for the rest of the season. And Coyle makes a ton of sense. Like, Coyle is a guy who ideally is a third-line center, has been a third-line center for the Jackets this year. He's been a phenomenal fit for Columbus, but it seems like Columbus, at current point in time, after going absolutely nuclear since signing Rick Bowness as head coach, they might not want to trade Coyle. It sounds like they're trying to sign some of their pending UFAs, guys like Jenner and Marchment, and Coyle's another one of those guys. So it's not a guarantee that Coyle gets moved because the Jackets do really want to sign him. But if the Jackets do lose a couple of games coming out of the Olympic break, they're still on the outside looking in, they may consider a trade of Charlie Coyle. He's had really good value for this year. He's a really solid point getter, goal scorer. He could be a really solid third line center for the LA Kings. And there has been some talk that after acquiring that second round pick from the Montreal Canadiens in the Philip Deneau deal, they will be willing to flip that pick if it was to get them some center help. So could the Jackets acquire like a package of a second round pick and maybe like a young prospect for Charlie Coyle? It's possible. So I wouldn't rule that out. So I know the Jackets are more likely to sign Coyle at this point in time than deal him because of how good they've been over the past little while. But if they can get a really good return, maybe Coyle would go to the Los Angeles Kings. So I have to wait and see on that. But if the Jackets do lose a couple of games and he's available, keep an eye on the LA Kings to potentially try and acquire Charlie Coyle. And lastly, going over to David Pagnotta, he says that when it comes to Blake Coleman, there's a lot of smoke around Blake Coleman, and he personally would be very surprised if he didn't get dealt before the trade deadline. So Coleman, he's not having the greatest of seasons. I think he's got like 13 goals and 20 points in 45 games. He's been a little bit injured over the past little while, so that has hurt his value a little bit, but he brings a really solid playoff style game. Like, he helped the Tampa Bay Lightning on the third line win back-to-back Stanley Cups back in 2020, 2021, and he, a couple of years ago, had some really solid point totals for the Calgary Flames. It was either last year or the year prior. So, like, there's a lot of teams out there who would love to add a guy like Blake Coleman. Like, there's been some talk about him going back to Tampa Bay. There's been some talk about Ottawa having some interest. I could see Boston have some interest. I could see Toronto have some interest in a guy like that. There's probably a couple of other teams. Would Carolina have some interest? Would Vegas have some interest? Like, there's a lot of teams out there who would love to add a center left winger like Coleman who can play anywhere on your third line. Like, that would be a fantastic addition. Now, he signed for, I think, this year plus either 1 or 2 more seasons at a $4.9 million cap hit. So It's not overly cheap, especially for a third liner, but he's the sort of guy you want to have for a playoff run, and he signed for another season at least beyond this one. So because of all of that, I think there's a very likely chance Coleman does get moved, and with the sort of return that they could get, I wouldn't be surprised if the Flames go like a first round pick plus for Blake Coleman. I don't think that's anything surprising. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but keep your eye on the Calgary Flames, as apparently according to Pagnotta, there is a lot of talk right now around Blake Coleman, and we could see a Blake Coleman trade, and it is very likely before the trade deadline, so I'll have to wait and see on that. But that's all we're talking for today. I'll have your guys' thoughts. Do the Flames move Blake Coleman? Do the Panthers move AJ Greer? Do the Wildland Vincent Trocheck? And could the Kings take Coyle from the Columbus Blue Jackets? Definitely your thoughts on all of that, plus all the news updates, waivers, injury updates, signings, and all that stuff down in the comment section below. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video. If you're listening to subscribe below, thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for videos coming in the very near future. If you haven't already, go check out my Buy Me a Coffee page, and if you can make a donation, it really does help the channel. I also do a blog to with news, rumors, analysis. If that's when you check that out, I'll link to that in the description below. Can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.